So we are going to be talking with you all a little bit this morning about the Crim Center, because we want you all to understand exactly kind of what you got yourselves into, and also what organization and the history that you are affiliated with. One of the great things about working in the Crim Center, it's been around for almost 20 years now, and we are connected to the history of not only Atlanta, but the history of education in the Southeast. And so you all are part of that movement now. You're part of that very important work. And so we feel like it's really important that you understand the Crim Center, you understand who Dr. Crim was, how he's connected to what happened then, and what's happening now. And hopefully what will be happening in the future with people like you at the helm. So, you want to jump right into this?
Yeah, so we wanted to, there's lots of sitting during the workshops, right? And you're getting a lot of information packed in. And so what we wanted to kind of start with was something for you to take a look at. You may have seen it before, but even if you've seen it, if you can try to look at it with new eyes, and just think about this. What went into making this happen? That's the question. What went into making this happen? What's the question?
What went into making this happen?
Oh, y'all are on it. Okay. happen in order for that video to happen? Go ahead.
Well, somebody had to start it, like.
Someone had to start singing.
Yeah.
Great.
They have to get a lot of people involved.
A lot of people involved, right? That's the cast of The Lion King, right? But they had to all coordinate, right? What else?
Teamwork.
Teamwork. What else?
Consistency.
Consistency. What do you mean by that?
Like if one person, falls inconsistent, like that could really, it doesn't necessarily mess it up, but you can tell, you can hear like the voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had to harmonize, get all those things correct. What else had to happen?
Everybody had to play their part.
Everyone had to play their
Yeah.
part. And it almost seems kind of trite to say that, right? Like, oh yeah, everyone played a part. But each person has their own thing that they're bringing to that moment, right? Think outside the box. That went on YouTube. So YouTube is owned by Google. If you're putting that on YouTube, let's start thinking broadly. What else had to happen?
After it was put on Google?
Sure.
YouTube? I mean, more and more people see that, more and more people share it.
What can happen?
A following, trends.
Someone with
More fame.
Someone wants to know why. So they had to think about law. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you get more fans.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just,
Thank you.
I was excited for that.
That was, yeah. You get more fans, you have to think about law, copyright. You think New York didn't pay attention to that, the city of New York, right?
Yeah.
Copyright, you have to think about legal, you have to think about the train card. What if someone had gotten upset? You saw a couple of those faces at first, right?
Yeah.
Right? So they have to think about contingency plans. All of these pieces had to go into making that a successful flash mob singing moment of The Lion King, right? All of these different pieces. Similarly, each of you brings a ton of talents and resources to making a successful education moment for these young people you're about to walk in and start teaching. But all of these pieces, it's not just about what you are bringing or what you are bringing or what you are bringing, right? All of these pieces have to come together for a successful teaching. What are the pieces? How do these pieces come together? That's some of the things we're going to be talking about. That's some of the work that Dr. Crim is trying to figure out. And we're named after him for a reason.
So you all are now part of the Crim Center. So, and some of you have been part of the Crim Center. I see familiar faces in the room. So we want you to kind of get an idea, kind of building off what Dana just kind of talked about. That really is the way the Crim Center works. That's the way we're designed to work. So in order for anything to get done in our world, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. You can choose to kind of work by yourself, right, in your own little field with your own little circle of experts. Or you can choose to reach out to other people who also understand a little bit about what you're trying to do and lean on their expertise, lean on what they know how to do. And that's how that Lion King thing happened, right? So if they don't know what time the trains are coming and the schedule for the trains, half the cast gets on one train, half the cast gets on another train, we don't have a show, right? All those people that were sitting there watching were an active part of that performance. If it was just the Lion King performers on there and no audience, that wouldn't have worked. So there are all these pieces. So in that one video, we see the arts, because they had to get together and practice. We see transportation. We see urban planning. We see technology. Videography. All these different pieces coming together to make that one thing happen. Most people don't see it that way. They just see the outcome. They see this beautiful music, but they don't understand all these other pieces come from. The same thing for the Crim Center. All right, so Crim Center's housed, you are in the College of Education at Georgia State University. The Crim Center was founded here. Just so you kind of get an idea about Georgia State, how many of you are Georgia State students? Came to Georgia State, graduated from Georgia State? Where did the rest of you come out?
University of Florida.
University of Florida, UCLA, California, wow, came a long way. From Georgia State,
University of West Georgia.
West Georgia,
Georgia State.
Georgia State,
Georgia State.
Georgia State, Clark Atlanta. Okay, great. So we got it. So just so you those people that are from Georgia State, I know you're proud Panthers, but those are not, just so you get an idea of who we are. Georgia State is the second largest university in the university system of Georgia. We're a powerhouse. I like to think of us that way. And the College of Education is a powerhouse in education, particularly in urban education. So you've got other universities that are doing it work. You got Kennesaw, you got Mercer, you got even UGA. But Georgia State is special. He's in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Our mission, outside of the Crim Center, the mission of Georgia State's College of Education is to actually impact urban schools, urban communities. Because we're sitting in the middle of the community. We can't call ourselves a college of education if we're not impacting the kids in schools and communities around us, right? More than 30,000 students, or 1,000 faculty members. I'm also a faculty member here at Georgia State. My area is early childhood education, so my department, my home department is on the 5th floor. So I teach teachers that teach elementary school. A 250-degree program, 62 fields of studies. Last year, Georgia State was the #1 producer of African Americans with bachelor's degrees in the United States. So we're doing good work here. So I hope that you're proud to be a part of the Georgia State community. I really want you to be proud of the part of the Crim Center. This is the Crim Center. All of you have been down to the Crim Center. You've seen it, right? 3rd floor of the College of Education. You can see Dr. Crim's portrait sitting back there. We honor our icons. So when you walk through the Crim Center, look on the walls, and you'll see the people that made the Crim Center. You'll see Dr. Asa Hill. You'll see Benjamin Mays. You'll see Dr. Crim, because we make sure those are the people that built the Crim Center. Just to kind of get an idea of what we do, this is the mission. We spent the summer doing strategic planning in the center, figuring out who we want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. We actually reworked our mission, and this, once again, was a community venture. Anybody that we work with, whether you work directly in the center or you're outside the community, we brought them together and we said, help us to understand who we want to be. And we rewrote the mission. So the mission of the Crim Center is to optimize the life opportunities for children and families in urban communities by ensuring the availability of a prosperous and equitable school environment. Okay? So that's a lot of words. At the end of the day, when you read that, who do we serve? At the end of the day, who do we serve? The children. At the end of the day, we serve children. Now we understand there are a lot of other people we got to work with, a lot of other people we probably going to have to serve, but at the end of the day, the way we measure our success is how are our children doing? How are our children doing? The vision. We envision a world where all children have equal access to educational opportunities that prepare them to be academically excellent, culturally competent, and critically conscious. It's a powerful statement, huh? Okay, so we don't want kids just to kind of grow up and know mathematics. We want them to understand why they're learning mathematics. We want them to apply mathematics to attacking problems in their communities as well as getting a job. It has to be broader than workforce development. Our schools have become workforce development, right? You ask kindergartners, what do you want to be when you grow up? As opposed to, what do you want to be right now, in this place and time? As a 5-year-old, what do you want to do right this second? Right? Our schools are more than workforce development. They're places to nurture human beings. And we need to start thinking about them that way. So it's not just about academic excellence is up there, but culturally competent. We want them to know who they are as people and the culture that they came from. And we want them to be critically conscious. We want them to be a question. We want them to be problem solvers. And that's a different way of schooling than we're seeing right now in a lot of urban public schools. So you all are part of this work. So as a part of this mission and vision, when you go out to schools as part of Team AmeriCorps, you're going out to promote this mission and to realize this vision. So everything you do in that school, you got to ask yourself, am I helping children to be academically excellent, culturally competent, and critically conscious? And if you're not, then you got to go back and rethink about what you're doing. Here's some of our programs. This is some of the bigger programs that we have right now in the center. We just launched Girls Who Code. Really excited. Dave, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, have you guys heard of Girls Who Code?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is Girls Who Code?
It's like, basically it's like a kind of, it's a program that's kind of like a mini campaign of getting girls involved in science, technology. They did an internship with Google or Apple over the summer. It was really cool.
Yeah, so it's coding, computer coding.
Yeah.
That is a literacy practice, right? We do reading, the traditional reading and writing. Knowing how to code and design code is important for girls and boys. So right now we launched Girls Who Code because women, and especially women of color, are underrepresented in STEM and coding fields. We're also in the process of talking with computer science department to launch a girls and boys summer coding program is here as well. It's not disjointed pieces, it's connected to literacy practices, numeracy, right? We have to teach them as interconnected.
So, and math as well.
And math, yes, absolutely, it's all connected.
So you all know all about this program, right? Hopefully, this is you all. This is Team AmeriCorps. You know a little something about it, right? You heard of this one before. Jumpstart's our other. It's also an AmeriCorps program. Jumpstart is our early literacy program. So one of the cool things about the Crim Center is we're the only academic unit in the College of Education that touches lives, birth through adulthood. We're working with people all the way along the pathway. So Jumpstart is our early literacy program. We're working in pre-K programs around the city of Atlanta, helping children learn to read and write in pre-K. Early college, we work with Washington High School and Carver High School. We got about 150 high school students that come to Georgia State and take classes here. They're enrolled as Georgia State students pursuing an associate's degree while they're still in high school. I tell people all the time, this is not a dual enrollment program. Dual enrollment is for kids that you ran out of classes to take at the high school, you got nothing left, now you got to go to the college. Early college, for children that may or may not go to college, they don't know. Many of them are first generation college students. They don't really know what college is about. So what early college does, it gives them the opportunity to come to Georgia State, understand and learn what is it like to be a college student. And not only that, we wrap our arms around them and we make sure they're successful so they understand, I can do this. 100% of our kids last year went on to a 2 or 4 year college. Yeah, that's big news. That's huge.
Yeah.
When you think about the graduation rate, right? So graduation rate in Georgia right now is hovering around 60, 70%, probably 60%. But if we carve that up and start looking at like certain demographic groups, like black males, it's like 40%. And so the kids we're working with, 100% of our kids are African American that come here, and we're graduating 100% of them going on to college. That's huge. And
I've seen students we worked when AmeriCorps worked with early college. Like I ran into a few waiting in line as a Georgia State student.
Yeah.
And, like I've seen early college kids. A lot of them got from Georgia State.
Well, those are your kids.
Yeah.
Those are your kids.
Oh,
That's because
yeah,
you all are
proud
their
of
big
you.
brothers and big sisters. You're their mentors. They look up to you to understand what's coming next. Let's see. We run the African American Male Initiative, which has been a program out of the Crim Center for many years. The male organization Tighter Grip that runs on campus now came out of the African American Male Initiative. It's meant to retain and graduate black males that come to Georgia State. And it was a very successful program, and a lot of the success that Georgia State enjoys now is because of programs like the African American Male Initiative. So last year, or 2 years ago, we wrote a new grant for the African American Male Initiative, and they said, okay, you've done really well with college students, what can you do with high school students? And so now what we're doing is taking Tighter Grip, those young men that came through the first African American Male Initiative, and they go to Washington High School, and now they're mentoring the young men there, helping them to develop the same type of organization at Washington High School. So now we just moved the work from the college to the high school. So now the idea is get them into college, get them out of high school, get them into college. We work with the Atlanta Housing Authority. Who's from Atlanta? Anybody from Atlanta? Okay, so how, are you born here? Okay, then you've seen Atlanta change then, right? One of the major ways that Atlanta has changed since the Olympics, it started right around the Olympics, is we started tearing down our housing projects. Techwood Homes was one of the first ones to go. I was at Georgia Tech at the time, and Techwood Homes was right. I worked at Fowler Elementary School, which was the elementary school in Techwood Homes, and they razed that community, tore it all down. Now it's a very political conversation because the timing was very interesting that they chose to do this as the Olympics were coming to town. And a lot of people said, well, you're doing this because the Olympic Village was at Georgia Tech, and we didn't want a housing project next to the Olympic Village. That was some of the criticism of this work. Now, Renee Glover, who was the CEO at AHA, said, no, what we're trying to do is deal with concentrated poverty here in Atlanta. We want to figure out a way to dismantle concentrated poverty here in Atlanta and give people some options and some pathways out of poverty. Because as you know, in urban communities, poverty is one of the challenges that we're trying to face. And so over time, Grady Homes, which is right down the street from Georgia State, was one of the last ones to go. And so if you look around Atlanta, drive around Atlanta, you see no more publicly funded housing projects. Instead you see what replaced Grady Homes. If you drive down Decatur, you see this beautiful apartments. Some of those are Section 8 housing, some of that's Section 8 housing. But it's also middle income housing there. So you got what they call mixed income communities now. So people from different class living all in the same community together. AHA is designed to kind of support that work. So we're working with the people that at one time lived in the publicly funded housing projects. They're now coming into these mixed income communities and helping them to understand, okay, how do you now live in this community now? So we're talking about things like home ownership, financial literacy, conflict resolution, parenting, all these different, just the idea is to give them what they need to know in order to continue to move their lives forward. It's a great program. And then finally, we run some events. November 6th, put it on your calendar because you all will be there in your bright blue. Right, Crystal?
Yes.
Yes. We want to see you in your blue. We run the Mays Lecture, one of probably the oldest lecture series on the campus right now. Mays Lecture this year, so let me tell you what Mays Lecture is. Each year we invite somebody who's well known in education across the country. We invite them down to Georgia State to give a lecture to the community. We've had people like Marion Wright Edelman. We had Ela Gandhi, who was Mahatma Gandhi's granddaughter. We had last year with Brian Stevenson. So we've had people that are doing really, really great work in urban ed. This year it is Jeannie Oakes from UCLA. She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. And so if you're interested in urban ed, you're going to want to come and listen to Dr. Oakes. It's going to happen on November 6th. At the reception's at 5:30. We will have the event starting at 6:30. And like I said, we want Jumpstart will be there in their red, and you'll be there in your blue because it's a Crim Center event. And we will be in the Rialto Theater, which is you do it up right. All right, and then in the spring we will have our conference. So we run the Sources of Urban Educational Excellence Conference, which is what we're going to say, right? The premier conference on urban education in the Southeast. And so what we want this conference will be, we've been running Sources now, this is the 10th year of Sources. And the idea is to bring the community together to have conversations about what we know that works. One of the things you'll find out about the Crim Center is we're very solution oriented. We always talk about what works. We're not going to sit around and talk about problems. We're going to talk about what's broken. We're going to talk about what we know that works. And we're going to use what we know that works to improve and attack the problems that we see in the community. So we're very solution oriented. So the Sources of Urban Educational Excellence is really just that, a source, a place you can go to learn about educational excellence. And that'll happen May 1st and 2nd, I think, is the Sources Conference this year. All right. How are we doing? Okay, great. So just to give you some idea about where you came from, we'll go through the history of Dr. Crim, just so you kind of see. That's Dr. Crim. His daughters are still very active here in Atlanta. One of his daughters is a principal at Woodson. Some of you, we're going to be at Woodson right again this year, so some of you may be placed at Woodson. Dr. Susan Crim McClendon, and she's the person that sat in the desk.
I am?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm so excited. Thank you. I just found out. I'm sorry, I just found out right now. Thank you so much.
I was here.
It's like Christmas. Okay, I'm good.
You gotta sneak that up on you.
I was really excited.
Make you cry.
Yeah.
So Susan actually sat in the chair that I sat in now. She ran the Crim Center for many years, and I was very good friends with her. When she left, she actually asked me if I'd be willing to come in and take on the center. And she's probably one of the reasons I made the decision to come down to the center. One of the many reasons. So Crim Center is named after Dr. Alonzo A. Crim. Dr. Crim, I put there first black superintendent because he was, after the Brown decision. So you all know about the Brown versus Board of Education decision, right? That desegregated our schools. So here after we desegregated schools in Atlanta, we have a school system that's primarily African American, right? But the leadership in the schools were basically white. And so you have this school system that's really battling with issues of race. And if you know the history, you know that even though the Brown decision happened in the mid-50s, most schools were not desegregated until the 70s. So schools just waited. You know, I don't want to desegregate the schools. They just waited until the federal government actually came in and said, no, you got to do this. That's why we have stories about like Ruby Bridges and the Little Rock Nine and things like that. So what happened in Atlanta is they said, look, we have a school system that's primarily African American. We should have leadership that reflects the community. And Dr. Crim was working in Oakland at the time, had been a successful superintendent out there, and they recruited him to come to Atlanta to leave the schools here. Now, the issue I have with saying black superintendent is I don't want people to think that the only thing that was special about Dr. Crim was that he was black. What was special about Dr. Crim is that he was a wonderful, strong, powerful leader. And what he did here in Atlanta schools had to do with him as a leader. I'm sure it had some things about him being able to connect with communities important, but it was about the way this man thought about schools and communities that was really, really important. Okay. So part of what Dr. Crim did was he committed himself to creating an excellent school system for the people here in Atlanta. Under Dr. Crim, he served for 15 years, so that's a long time for a superintendent. He left the school system in 1988. During his 15 years, he transformed Atlanta Public Schools into a school system that people came from around the country to send their kids to. Graduation rates under Dr. Crim were in the 90%, low 90s. Graduation rates were in the mid-70s. Attendance rates were in the 90s, low 90s, I mean 92%. So in other words, our kids went to school and they graduated for the most part. We've come a long way from Dr. Crim. Come a long, long way from Dr. Crim. Part of what Dr. Crim believed was that this thing we call education is not just the responsibility of teachers and parents and principals. It's a community responsibility. And he had this idea, he talked about the community of believers. And these are people that kind of believed in his foundational beliefs about what could happen in education. I'll talk about them in a second. But he said, we need to pull from across the community. We need to talk to labor. We need to talk to mental health. We need to talk to public health. We need to talk to housing. We need to talk to workforce development. Everybody needs to be at the table if we're going to create good schools. Anybody know the significance of Dr. Mays in history? Very significant man in history, particularly here in Atlanta. So, former president of Morehouse College, right? Phenomenal educator, mentor to many of our greatest leaders. One man he was mentor to was Dr. Martin Luther King. So Dr. Mays was Dr. King's mentor because Dr. King came through Morehouse College. So if you think about the Crim Center and the way that it's positioned here in Atlanta, this man, you see him standing there with Dr. Crim. This man was also Dr. Crim's mentor. So here in the city of Atlanta, we have these two icons in civil rights, working very close. One working very closely with things like integration of schools, labor, things like that's Dr. King. And the other person working in education, that's Dr. Crim, both mentored by the same man. So in some ways, I want you to see the connections to the history of civil rights in the United States and the connections to this man, Dr. Benjamin Mays. That's kind of your roots as part of the Crim Center, as part of your history. So after 15 years working in the schools, Dr. Crim left as superintendent and he came to Georgia State. And he served here, he's on faculty here. Now, serving as a faculty member at Georgia State was problematic, I'll use that word, for Dr. Crim. Because Dr. Crim is a doer. He wants to get the work done. He wants to solve problems. Professors often are asked to publish papers. They want to sit behind a computer and publish papers. Dr. Crim wasn't having that. That's not the way he wanted to work. He wanted to be in the community, he wanted to work with people, he wanted to see the impact of the work that he was doing outside of a journal article. So he struggled here at Georgia State with that dynamic. So what he did was he raised a lot of money through his networks. He was well networked here in Atlanta, and he established a chair, an endowed chair here at Georgia State that would be for a professor that was committed to not only being that professor that publishes the papers, but was also out in the community doing the work. The chair he named after his mentor. So it's the Benjamin E. Mays Chair for Urban Education. It's currently held by Dr. Joyce King, who you will hopefully have the honor of meeting. Dr. King is phenomenal. She is currently the president of AERA, which is the largest educational research association in the world. And Dr. King is leading it right now. She's phenomenal. But before Dr. King, Dr. Lisa Delpit was the Benjamin E. Mays Chair. Dr. Delpit, once again, if you want to read about urban education, read Other People's Children by Lisa Delpit. That's a great book. You need to pick it up if you're interested in urban education. You really want to serve these kids that you're going to work with in the next few weeks. You need to pick up Other People's Children by Lisa Delpit. So Lisa Delpit was well known in urban education, a phenomenal scholar. She was the first Benjamin E. Mays Chair, and she wrote a grant to UPS in Annenberg that founded the Crim Center. And since then, we've been forwarding the work of Dr. Crim. That's been our mission. Okay? So we're coming up on 20 years. In 2 years, we'll be 20 years old, which is phenomenal for a center. They don't last that long on campuses. They tend to get shut down because funding runs out, something happens, and they shut down the center, or they rename it. We've been 20 years here on Georgia State's campus. So I talked to you about Dr. Crim's principles and what are the guiding principles for the Crim Center. These are our 5, and you can count them on your hand, our 5 guiding principles for what we do and how we do it. All right? The first one, Dr. Crim believed that public schools were an effective strategy for educating people in a democracy. You need to have public schools. So privatizing education is not the road to equitable educational opportunities or excellent opportunities for kids. Okay? He also said it's possible to create an excellent school system. You can have schools that really, really serve our kids and serve them well. Public schools. He said all children are capable of learning, regardless of race, gender, religion, whatever. All children can learn. 4, he believed the teacher is the curriculum. So I can give you all the great reform, I can bring in curriculum materials, I can give a teacher that knows nothing about the community, nothing about their students, nothing about pedagogy, doesn't care. I give them the best reform, the best materials in the world, and their kids will not learn, won't learn. The other side, I can give the best teacher in the world a toothpick and a rubber band, and they will make magic happen in that classroom, and those children will learn. At the end of the day, it's not reform, it's not curriculum, it's not textbooks that help children to learn, it's teachers. It's people like you, right? So you need to, I hope that you see yourself as part of that. When you think about yourself and your identity in that classroom, what you're doing is very important. What you're doing is critical to our children, right? So that's why we talk about things like commitment, because it's going to be hard. You're going to be doing hard work, and so you need to be committed to this because it's very important. The last thing is that education is a community responsibility, and that's a community of believers. Okay? And so those are our 5 guiding principles. So everything we do is based in those 5 guiding principles. Okay? Does that make sense? So I wanted to give you all just kind of a history to see where you're coming from, because you're connected to a really powerful history. You're a part of that now. And if we do it right, we'll actually change the world for some of our kids. Right? Better yet, we will help kids learn what they need to do to change their own world. Right? It's not on us to change their world. They can do it. We just need to help them. We just need to help them. All right, so you want?
So with everything that Brian has talked about, Dr. Williams has talked about, and we started with that video, right? All of the things that went into that video. And then Brian talked about some of the founding principles of the center. Dr. Mays, Dr. Crim, Dr. Delpit, Dr. King, community members, the Atlanta Public School, right? In order for Dr. Crim to be so successful, he had to have parents who believed in his vision and who supported the work. Teachers, community leaders, business people, all of these people had to come together to create this success. We want to now bring this down to you. Hold out your hand. This is going to be kind of the corny moment, right? Hold out your hand. How many fingers on your hand? 5. Come on, STEM people. 5, right? I want you very quickly to think of 5 talents that you have. They can be some people will be like, what? 5 talents that you have that you think you bring to the classroom right now that could really help the child. Because if the teacher is the curriculum, you're going to live that through your engagement with the students, through working with your cooperating teacher. What are 5 talents? What are 5 skills? What are 5 gifts that you have? Quickly, I'm going to count to 20. You only have 20 seconds. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's not a real second.
6.5. 6 3/4. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 12.5. You got 5. 13. 14. You have a great sense of humor? Are you good at helping people talk through their problems? You play an instrument? Are you great at sports? Can you take a math problem and break it down so that anyone can get it? If you can't, I need to talk to you. 14, 15, 16. Don't get nervous. You can pick that. You got to be done. 18, 19, and 20. Nice. Who wants to go first? Go ahead.
I have a patient,
You're patient.
friendly,
Okay.
committed, sports fan. I think I can like apply that to some kind of lesson.
Okay.
Motivated.
Okay. That's 5?
Yeah. Patient, friendly, committed, sports fan, and motivated.
And motivated. Okay. Sorry. Got
Oh,
it.
no, it's
Got it. I can't count well. Nice.
hard.
You're hardworking.
Reliable.
Reliable.
Gotta be honest.
You're honest.
Problem solved.
Okay. Problem solver. And passionate. You're going to bring all that. All right. Now, what you bring connects to what you bring. What about what you bring?
I'm trustworthy. I relate to my audience, which would be the children.
Okay.
I believe that learning is something that can never be taken away. I have a desire to promote change.
And you're what? And patient. Did we hear everything? Okay. You have a belief that learning is something that cannot be taken away? Now, what you have connects to what you have, which connects to what you have. And I apologize that I don't know your names yet. I will learn them. Who's next? Oh, yes.
I'm creative.
Okay.
I like crafts. I
Oh.
like to do something different. I feel like that's the best way to engage with students.
Okay.
Because not everybody can just do a problem. Some people need something different.
Why weren't you a teacher? Oh, my God.
I'm spontaneous
Okay.
at times, but at other times, gotta know when to apply it. I'm optimistic,
There's a story behind that. All right.
and for the most part, learning from me is something that I love. So I feel like if I can give that to a child,
Okay.
as far as them being excited every day they come to school, then they'll want to keep going
Yeah.
and staying in school like I have.
Okay.
For the most part.
All right.
So just determination.
Determination. Now, everyone, listen to what your colleagues and potential friends are saying, right? Because I'm going to ask you a question at the end. What question am I going to ask? You know what's going
Who
to
said?
come. Go ahead.
Music, writing, composing music, dance, any design like urban planning we were talking about
Right.
earlier, interior, organizing or planning anything really,
Okay.
and then public speaking, like teaching others how to public speak and then like myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone. Go ahead. You're smiling. Go ahead.
I would say first thing is believing, being a believer in yourself, and having children believe in themselves. That's the biggest thing.
Yes.
Connection that you have with between the teacher and the student, the interaction, being relatable to them, and having fun, being interactive, and analyzing things, and taking things one step further, and researching and
Okay.
problem solving.
All right. That's 12. That's good. All right. No, that's amazing. That's great. All right. And we got 2 more people who wants to go.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I like to be the doer in events.
Okay.
Anything like that. I like to be the one execute.
Okay.
I want to try things. My husband hates it. I try so many things. I require people's best. I want motivated, committed, and listen.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So, my 5.
There it is.
Court order. I have energy and creativity. There's no one way to learn. And quitting or I can't, I don't know, that's not an answer. Never. I'm entertaining and humorous, and I have a connection to the arts. I also have a thirst for more, and I pull that out of people. and leadership qualities. And most importantly, I just have a way of building relationships and connecting with people. There's an honesty factor. I just keep it real.
Okay, all right. Jason,
So,
videographer. What are 5 incredible skills, interesting things? What are your 5 talents that you think of off the top of your head?
desired knowledge. I want to change.
Okay.
I'm creative. I'm respectable. And I understand people.
We hear a lot of common themes. Brian, what are your 5?
I'm really interested in things like science and engineering, study a lot of those kinds of things. I like photography. I love teaching. I think I'm a pretty good teacher. I'm an outdoors person, so I like rock climbing and swimming and things like that. I think that I like getting involved with those types of things, getting people involved. And let's see, I think leadership. Yeah.
Ms. Bradley?
I am empathetic. I am stubbornly dedicated, compassionate, pretty good at multitasking, and I'm resilient. Yeah, so add it all together is pretty much the characteristics of a master teacher these days.
Wrap that up. Right. And my 5, very quickly, I love breaking down silos. So when I was taking classes, if you told me I could only take a science class, in my science class, I was trying to bring in art. I failed a lot, but I was trying to bring things in and make connections. I enjoy music and art. I enjoy travel. I have to travel. I have to travel. I also enjoy learning language. I also enjoy learning languages. I love meeting different people and learning different languages to try to communicate with them. Final thing I love is teaching. I believe that there's not one human being on earth who cannot learn. I believe every single child, every single person I connect with can learn. What are we learning? That's one other question. But everybody can learn, right? Last thing I want to ask you then, if these are all the skills and talents that are floating around this room, if Dr. Crim believed that we're a community of believers and we all have our skills and talents, Brian talked about our 5 guiding principles and all of these pieces fit together. How does what you love and your skills and talents, how do they fit with others in the room? Just say one thing. How does what you do connect with someone in this room?
Like for me to be able to be creative.
Or just what you do, how could you
She
connect?
likes the arts.
Okay.
So for that, we could do some type of creative expression
Collab,
within the person.
yeah.
Within each child, they have some type of personality that they don't actually put out.
Absolutely.
And it takes at least more than one person to bring that out of somebody.
Absolutely. How about you? Who do you connect to in this room?
Well, I like to say, she said she like to organize, so.
Okay.
So I like to do what she likes to organize.
Yeah, right there. How about you?
Honesty.
Who said honesty?
Say something about honesty too, right?
You and I both said that.
Yes.
It's Devin or Devon?
Honesty and keeping it real. Very important, right? And what does that mean in a classroom context? Sometimes it's tricky. Let's keep it real, right?
Yes.
What about you? Who do you connect to?
Well, there are a number of people who talk about passion and motivation and dedication, which is required to start anything.
Yes. Who talked about dedication and passion? You said passion too?
I said motivation.
Motivation. Okay, all right. How about you?
I believe you said you like to try new things. Yeah, usually I'm like stuck in the box. I do just specific things that I feel like are only on paper. So I feel like, working with you. Yeah.
All right. I like this. Someone who's going to maybe push you to try some new
Yeah.
things. 'Cause we got to do that with our students sometimes, right? How about you?
I would say when you say motivation, it's something that you can make fun because I like being motivated and do a lot of
Okay. All right. And you?
Oh God, your hand scared me.
Okay.
I saw something coming this way. And it's actually, like traveling. Like,
Traveling.
I don't know what's gonna happen the next few years, but I need to like travel out in this world. Like, I want a job that travels.
The world
Actually.
is so awesome.
Yeah.
And disturbing.
The one thing that stood out for me was the art thing, because the dancing thing. But I just realized for me, my stuff, I just love to give and have that connection with people. And I think the way everybody presented showed the openness of people from their own individual. So
That's right. Well, that circles all the way back to Dr. Crim's work. That circles all the way back to the interview questions that Ms. Bradley and Ms. Turner were asking you about being committed to this work. The fact that we are all standing here today, sitting in this room, talking about our talents, our skills, we are a part of the community of believers, right? Everything I do, I have to think about, okay, how's it going to impact you? How's it going to impact the children? How's it going to the teachers? And when I step out of this room and out in the streets, I'm representing not just myself and my family, but the Crim Center and this work, Team AmeriCorps and this work. It's all woven together, right? Like the hand. It's all these pieces that come together to create this thing that can do a lot. Separately, it's very difficult. You can move something, but it's not as powerful as when you're all connected. And that is the beauty of the Crim Center. That is the beauty of Team AmeriCorps and how Ms. Bradley and Ms. Turner have structured it. And it's housed here at the center. We support Team AmeriCorps. Team AmeriCorps supports the center. You're a part of Team AmeriCorps. We're supporting each other. Now, when we see you, we're going to be saying, hi, how's it going? Well, how you been using your talents? What's going on? Support each other. And don't forget that you're a part of the community of believers, all right? Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
No, I think that's a great way to end it.
So what we're going to give you here is, remember Dr. Williams talked about the strategic plan we did this summer, where we interviewed over 150 people to get this all pulled together? It was a massive endeavor. But what this is the strategic plan cheat sheet. Ooh, say that. No, don't say that. For the Crim Center. And so we want to get this out to you all so that you can see exactly where we're planning to go for the next 3 to 5 years. And think about how this program, your program, and you fit into this strategic plan, okay? Because as we are starting to and continuing to rebrand the center, you're going to see this language popping up. To be able to speak on it, to be able to talk about this work and how Team AmeriCorps and you fit into it is vital. So just keep that in your files, refer back to it. Most importantly,
read it.
yeah, read it, but enjoy being a part of the community of believers. We're happy to talk to you and have a great time. This is fun. It's a great opportunity. You can meet the kids. It's great.